So you said it was a tough training camp. What was so tough about it?
I started out back home in St. Albert, Alberta with CFMA, Complete Fitness and Martial Arts. Then I went over to Jackson's, Winklejohn for 3 weeks. Then I went to Australia, helped Richard Walsh and Brendan O'Reilly get ready for UFC 193. Then I was back home for 3 weeks with my home team. Then I went back out to Jackson's to finish my last 10 days, get that altitude in. And the last 10 days, really hard training before I came out to Vegas.
Did the stakes of the fight make it any more difficult for you coming off of 2 losses in the UFC?
No, fighting like shit in my last fight is what made me need to readjust and refocus myself. Like, you sit there and you know how good you are and you watch yourself in the gym and do well against guys who are really good, then you perform like I did in my last fight. I need to come out here like myself. I need to come out here, finish fights in the first round. Look through my entire career, I have 7 fights inside of a minute. I need to come out here and put it on guys, and I didn't do that in my last couple fights, and I need to find that guy again.
What did you learn from the 2 losses that you had about what you really needed to focus on?
Go back to the drawing board and get out of my comfort zone. Like, I need to go where I had butterflies getting ready for sparring sessions and stuff. Cowboy was getting ready for a southpaw. Conde was getting ready for a southpaw. Kyle Noak was getting ready for Peter Sabota, who's a southpaw. So I was like the hot girl at Jackson's for about 3 weeks. Every time there's a sparring round, they're like, southpaw, you're next. I want you. Oh, I want you first. I'm like, so those are my rounds. How can I not get better? I would literally have to be the dumbest person on the planet Earth to not get better in that environment. And plus the coaching staff as well.
Will you keep going to Jackson's?
Absolutely. I had a really bad view of the place before I went there. It was stupid, honestly.
What was it?
It was just, I heard that all they did was try to win practice. All the guys just go hard, and like guys would get hurt in practice, and like I get paid to fight. I'm not fighting for free. I went there and like, do you know what? The guys, they were hard rounds, but guys were looking after each other, and the coaching staff, they will full on and tell guys, like, we're not giving out trophies in practice, so I want you to work on this and not just try and win practice. And the growth was huge. It was fantastic.
Noak brought you out there?
Noak actually invited me right after the show, and I finally took him up on the offer.
It's interesting that Noak, and you mentioned Walsh, you seem to have been closer with the Australians than the Canadians from the show. What happened? Are you Benedict Arnold? What's going on?
That's not even either. Actually, Cote and me talked right before, because he never IV'd before. Like, he doesn't IV at all. And before the IV ban I IV'd. So actually, I've stayed in contact. I was out in Thailand with Cote as well. I'm really good with all of them. The whole team, like both sides, kind of got close after those fights.
What's your take on the current state of Canadian MMA? It has not been a good year. 2015 was a particularly bad year. From UFC perspective, the record, but even the shows, there's less shows these days in Canada. Do you feel like there's a crop of young guys coming up? Why has it sort of dried up a little bit?
We're coming. You watch The Ultimate Fighter, you watch Olivier, you watch Cajun, you watch Elias. We're coming. It's just George held the reins forever. They had George and Cote. All the other guys, then Rory came up, so we were always on the very top end. Now we're back to, what was it, UFC 50 when Cote fought Tito and George fought, I think, Nick Thompson. We're coming up. Just give us a couple years, we'll be back on top.
Do you feel like there's a shortage of local promotions, regional promotions? There used to be a bunch, TKO and the MFC, but there's not that many these days, and that helps usually develop new talent.
There was 5 in my home city 3 years ago. Now there's 1, maybe 2, but the 2 that are there are developing new talent. Unified MMA and Hard Knocks in Calgary, but Unified MMA is coming out with guys. We need them. We need more shows, and we need to put shows on more often. These guys got to get fights, because if the guys don't get that high-level competition, they're not going to survive out here.
How did you feel about the performance with Edgar, and what would you like to see next for your career?
I was patient, but I was also aggressive, which is the exact middle of the road where I need to be, and I could keep that pace. I could have punched all day, and I could keep that high-level pace for 15, 25 minutes. So I can't say a lot. I got to watch it again. Everything kind of goes in fast, like really fast. So I got to watch it again. Yeah.
Were you surprised at how easy it was? I mean, you did get him out of there pretty quick, and you were pretty dominant. It took a lot of punches to get him out of there, but it still seemed pretty easy for you.
It was all of his losses have come in the UFC, and they're all really by sub. Brad Blackburn, they went to war with each other for 3 rounds. He was beating the tar out of DeMarcus Johnson before he threw up that Hail Mary, and he was doing really well against Hector Urbania before he guillotined him. So the sub, a lot of people thought was the way I was going to get there, but once I got my hips down, I knew I could tee off, and I hit a couple of shots and I felt them, and I was tight, and I know that me in that position, I'm a big, strong 170er that you ain't going nowhere.
You looked like you were thinking about going for a rear naked at one point because you were throwing so many punches and you weren't sure you were going to get him out of there. Were you thinking about going for a sub at one point?
I stopped for a second. I'm like, no. They called me Huggy Bear on 3 different websites. I'm going to put this guy out. I'm not holding on to anybody today.
One last question about the Canadian stuff. Are you on the side of the fence hoping that GSP comes back because a rising tide lifts all boats? Most shows in Canada, they feature you guys more. Do you think that he should stay retired?
George is the greatest of all time. If he wants to come back, he can come back. He's mentoring guys in the gym, and that in itself, if he's in the gym as much as the guys are saying, these guys will come up even faster. George doesn't have anything left to prove. If he wants to come back, that's just for his legacy. Man, I would love to just get a little bit of work in with him myself because he's that good. He could come back and he would be on top, but I just think right now we just need a couple more fights. Guys are winning. The Canadian guys are winning fights. It's just we don't have anyone in that upper echelon besides Rory. Mm-hmm. Well, and Valerie Letourneau as well.
Congrats.
Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate it.